Blackstar ID Core range is one of the most popular solid-state amps in the world for both professionals and beginners. To give you a slight peek behind the curtain at Guitar, these are some of our most popular selling amplifiers for, again, both professionals and beginners because they're super easy to use and also they sound great. The next step in the evolution of the ID Core range comes in the form of the IDX50 and 100. They're brand new amplifiers for this range that add a bunch of new stuff that I think a lot of players are going to be really excited about now. If you want to see some of those certain features, then I will split the video up into chapters. You can check them down in the description, along with the link to the website to check out this amplifier. And while you're down there, give us a subscribe if you want to keep up with all the latest news at Guitar HQ. But let's just jump on and check in with the amplifier. Okay, so I think it's probably quite important to get some of the familiarities out the way first, because this is in the same sort of line as the ID Core, and it does have a couple of things that it shares in common with those other amplifiers, including the 6 familiar sounds going from clean warm all the way up to overdrive 2. You have an EQ, a 3-band EQ there, and the universal ISF EQ as well, which goes between that kind of British and American sound, which any players of Blackstar will be super familiar with. I'll give you just a little quick sort of like example of going through the banks there. The sounds you heard right at the start of the video, that was me just going between two sounds that were actually programmed into the amp, and this is much the same just on bank 1. Now, one of the major changes you may have seen just from the camera that is on the amplifier there as well is that the IDX now has a screen on it here, which is not only going to be able to tell you what the patch is that you're on, which you can control with the Blackstar foot switch as well, which is really, really handy. But it will also give you a little bit more information about the effects, because that was one of the coolest things about the ID Core range, was that even on their like 10 watt all the way up to their 40 watt, even kind of bigger than that as well, that they all shared the same effects, delays, modulations, reverbs, all that really good stuff there. And it just had one rotary knob to be able to control them. But what you're getting with this now is a lot more control, a lot more effects, and also this brand new pre-effects as well, making it total over 35 effects that you can actually play with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just switch everything off here. We're just going to go back to our kind of plain patch. And actually, let me turn off one of the other features as well, which is this noise gate, just because we want to hear absolutely everything. Cool, there we go. So let's start with the pre-effects here. And this will also show you how to actually control some of them as well. So much like the ID Core, once you press it, that'll then activate the effect that you're using, and that is across all of them there as well. Now, if we're looking at the pre-effects here, what it's just went to as standard is a compressor. I think this is because I'm on patch 3 here, but you know what, we'll do it straight from manual so you can see exactly what's happening. So if you press that, you get this thing called the valve boost, which you heard a clean tone there. Let's actually get a little bit of volume in there as well. So we hit that. So that's given us a nice clean boost over that there, which you can then control with these two knobs just right here. So on the rotary side of things, that's going to control whichever parameter is underneath it there as well. But then what you can do is you can press that second one, that's going to give you another screen of extra controls. Now, as I mentioned, there's over 35 effects in here. And to see some of the other ones, and this is per like effects bank that you're going to be on. So on our pre-effects here, you can then see that we've got things like a valve boost here, a red drive, TS drive, no guess as to what that is there. Let's go into that. Press that one, that's activated it. We've got our drive, we've got our level, we press that, we've got our tone. So sounds great. Now, you can see there's quite a few more as well, and even like, you know, like an octave fuzz sort of vibe in there as well. And of course you hit that, and then you're just back to clean again. But one of the cool things again is that you can actually control that with the foot switch as well. So essentially you're getting a bit of a pedal board with this. Then just back to clean like that, super easy. Now there's an extra couple of settings in there as well. There's like an envelope filter, and as I keep switching the other effects there as well, just so you can actually see everything. There's even a compressor built in, like I said, along with the envelope filter as well. Moving over to the modulations, we're going to get all the usual stuff we expect in here. Chorus, flanger, the phaser, and a couple of trems and vibratos. I always just need to do the seasick noise with that as well. But of course, you can set this up kind of any way that you want to in terms of per patch, per sound, all that sort of stuff. You can kick them in and out if you want to. It's really, really handy. So even if, you know, I'm on the clean right now, let's use that shimmer delay. This is one of my kind of favorite new settings in it as well. That is just a cool sort of inspiring sound, and I'm also going to put a bunch of reverb on here as well, just to really get that big, huge sort of ambient sound. As you can see, you can get a little bit out of hand with some of those effects, but that, again, like I said, that was kind of one of my favourite things about the old ID Core range was, or not even the old ID Core range, because this is basically just another step in that family. If you do just want the bare bones of it, you know, just nice and simple, the ID Core range is still going to be there. The IDX is obviously just if you want to get a little bit more into it, and to be able to sort of combine effects like that with different sounds with them at the control just at your feet, I think is a great option, because it will allow you to sort of just, you know, inspire yourself with some new sounds. And like, instead of, this is what I always kind of tell people in the shop, that if you have a particular effect that you maybe want to try out, say it's like a phaser or flanger or something like that, but you maybe don't want to jump, you know, immediately into it, there's so many amps out there that actually have got those sounds in them, is that you can kind of test it out a little bit to then go, yeah, maybe I do want a pedal with that. But in all honesty, with the control you can do it with the foot switch on here, you know, you might not even need to buy that pedal. So another thing that Blackstar have included in this, which isn't particularly new for them, but is new for the ID Core range, is the tube response feature, which is at the right-hand side of the control panel there. So that's got an EL84, an EL34 and a 6L6 option, which is going to dramatically change your tone depending on what you want it for. You know, I'm going to kind of start just with a clean here, but I will let you hear it with a distortion and how it changes there. So kicking it off with the EL84. So that's not just obviously like amp exclusive. You can set that to a different tube response per setting as well, you know, within your banks obviously. So you can save that, say you want a particular sort of tube response for like a solo tone, maybe you want one for your clean tone as well. Along with all the effects and stuff, that is completely adjustable per channel and the presets that you are saving for yourself. So tons and tons of flexibility, which, yeah, it's one of the coolest things about these amps. Now there are a couple of extra options as well that I do want to talk about with this, which are cool. There is this shift option. If you press and hold the tap tempo, which there is a tap tempo in here as well for your delays, this will control an extra couple of settings that are actually like secondary on the knobs here. So you have a gate, you have a resonance and presence control here as well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to crank that gate up to as high as it will go. I'm going to go into the most distorted sort of tone, and let's see how kind of like modern we can get this in terms of like, you know, kind of like a djenty sort of vibe for all my metalheads out there. On there, that kind of classic setup of a tube screamer with its level totally full, so you can get that kind of more push sound out of it. Okay, so last couple of features that I do want to mention is the power soak feature here, which is super handy, and I think a lot of amps are starting to do this now as well. Blackstar certainly aren't strangers to it, but you have a 1 watt, a 10 watt and a 50 watt setting with this amplifier, and you've also got smaller wattage features available with the 100 as well, because that can get pretty loud, as you can imagine. If we were to look at the back of the amplifier as well, not only has it got stuff like USB-C integration for some updates, the IDX has actually got Blackstar's cab rig technology that they use in their amped pedal ranges, which means that you can hook this up directly to either like, you know, an interface or something like that, or the front of house at a gig or anything, and just run with the cab sims that are actually in here, which sound absolutely awesome. And on the back as well, we do have an effects loop along with a streaming out option for a 3.5-inch jack, which Blackstar have been using on the ID Core range for a while. In the version 3, they actually came with that, which is really, really handy, obviously, for modern guitarists who are maybe on Twitch or TikTok or anything like that. So yeah, as far as features go in the brand new Blackstar IDX, that's all I wanted to really cover in there. My favourite being all the inclusion of those brand new effects in there, along with obviously the power options so you can play at home and at a gig. I'm sure anyone out there who loves to mess around with guitar tones, to use loads of effects and all that sort of stuff, is going to get on absolutely superb with these amplifiers, along with some more modern features like the USB-C out and the streaming out as well. But let me know what you think about the brand new Blackstar IDX range in the comments below, and while you're down there, give us a like and a subscribe if you've enjoyed the video, because it really does help and you can keep up with all the latest news at Guitar HQ. But until next time, I've been Kieran and I've just been checking out the brand new Blackstar IDX 50 amplifier. Have a great day.